provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined. Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., the radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined. Welcome to The Wrecking Trade. I'm your host, Robert Lynch. Today is another great show. Last week we had some real fun with Kashika. Kashika's actually in studio today, but you won't see her on camera. Today she's brought her friend. We're just going to have a really good time. But today, let me tell you, this is The Wrecking Trade, and this is made possible by you. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. That is the way we tell you, YouTube, that this show means something. This show has impact. So go ahead and do that. It costs you nothing. We're going to try to hit 5,000 subscribers right now. I think we're at 2,870, somewhere there. But if you could help me out, I would really appreciate it. And with that, let's jump into today's show. We have our lovely guest. Tell us 5 easy questions to get us started, and then we can get the conversation started. So that's your name, your age, your relationship status, what you do for work, and your highest education level completed.
Okay, my name is Kabiro. I'm 19. I'm in a relationship. I'm currently a social work bachelor student, and my highest level of education is an associate's degree.
Awesome. So you finished your associates and you're on your way on to your bachelor's now.
Yes.
Nice. All right, great. So easy to just get started. Do you believe in gender roles?
No.
And why not?
I feel like...
You feel like, okay.
Or, my opinion is... there. My opinion is that we're all different and unique. We shouldn't have to confine ourselves to boxes that are created by society. We should be able to fully express ourselves and just use our God-given gifts and talents regardless of what they are and what our gender expression is.
Awesome. I'm hearing a lot in that. I'm hearing whatever our gender expression is, be able to fully express ourselves, to be unique and awesome. And I'm also hearing God. So how do you fix God, or how do you connect God into all of those things? How do you connect God to those things?
Well, He is my creator. He is our
Awesome.
creator. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, He made me. He made me the person I am. He gave me the gifts and the talents that I use daily. So, yeah.
Yes, so he's given you a lot of things to make you who you are.
Yes.
And has he given you anything else? Do you think he's given us any kind of prescriptions or anything to allow us to do what he's designed us to do, or he has no designs for our lives? What do you believe there?
Well, the Bible is a guideline. It does tell us the life that He wants us to live, or how He wants us to live our lives. However, like any other book, the Bible is open to interpretation. So my interpretation of the Bible could be very different from your interpretation of the Bible.
Do you think it's important for us to have a collective interpretation under God, of course?
I do think that there are general things that we can all agree on. For example, the fact that God is a loving God, He cares about us, He wants to be involved in our daily lives, things like that. However, based on our life experiences, the way that we see the world and experience the world, our interpretations of the Bible are going to be different.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'm wondering if, and the whole purpose of having this conversation, and I ask you the questions I asked you at the beginning, is to kind of establish a baseline. Different persons from different generations, they have different interpretations, like you're saying, and different appreciations of the things that we're talking about. And it's interesting that you've aligned God to your idea of the absence of gender roles. And I'm wondering if in your reading, do you find that God agrees with you, or he is somewhere else when it comes to gender roles?
I don't necessarily believe that the gender roles that we have in our society were designed by God. Gender roles, gender expression, they're societal construct. So they differ from society to society. Now, I do agree that God made us to be partners. We're not supposed to be alone in this life, right? So, yes, I agree with that. However, I don't think that in God's creation of us, He said women are the only ones who are supposed to be cooking and doing laundry and staying in the home. I don't believe that.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because that gives me an appreciation of an understanding of what you believe gender roles are. And I'd love to be able to help you to navigate past that, because you're absolutely right. It's not just about cooking and cleaning. It's a lot more than that. And so if I were to ask you, you're hanging out with your boyfriend, and some other guys kind of roll up on you and say some unkind things, do you think that he should protect you? Or, let's go all the way. They threaten violence towards you bodily. Do you think that he should protect you? Or, you're a grown person, you're an individual, you can take care of yourself.
I believe that we can both take care of it.
You can both take care of it.
If the threat was made to me, I don't really think that in that situation with him there, I should just sit there and take it and let him take over. No, I should be able to voice my opinion and stand up for myself with him by my side, also standing up for me. That's what a relationship is supposed to be. Two people interacting with the world, taking on the world, and navigating their lives together.
Okay. So when you get pregnant, so how does he help you with that? How does he carry the baby with you?
He doesn't necessarily have to carry the baby for him to help me while I'm pregnant. Even though I'm not going to get pregnant, I don't want children.
Okay. We're unpacking some things here. We're really digging into it, and it helps us to be able to appreciate your position. And I'm glad you shared that, right? Because it helps us to see what we're working with. And what we're working with here, as I'm being able to appreciate, is you have different views, and those views are informed by a different set of principles. And this may not necessarily be just biblical, but I imagine your life experiences as well. Like, why don't you want kids, if you don't mind me digging deep into that?
I don't really believe that the way that the world is now is very suitable for children. I have nothing against people who do want children or who have children already. I just know that personally I don't feel comfortable having children in this.
And that's okay. We get choices. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, you're absolutely right. The world is going into some pretty scary places, and we may differ in terms of what that scary looks like. Right? So for me, part of the scary is my son is 3 years old, and when I think about him going into the school system and persons telling him that it's okay for him to cut off his penis and become a woman, that becomes a challenge for me. I'm scared by that. That really scares me. Why does that scare me? Because I believe that if we don't have a set of principles that we can agree on as a society that really help us to progress as a society, we live in that space where persons don't want to have kids anymore because it's so scary.
But then it goes back to what you believe the definition of principles are.
Excellent. What do you believe the definition of principles are?
A set of guidelines that dictate or help you navigate how you're supposed to live your life.
Absolutely.
I don't think that anyone has the principle that your son should cut off his penis and become a woman, I feel like that's an overgeneralization that stems from a lot of, for lack of a better word, ignorance and a lack of information about what transgender people go through and the lives that they lead.
Shots fired. I love it. I appreciate it too, right? Because when we say ignorance, what we're really saying is we're trying to shame what other people think if they believe something different to us. And so when we look at the law, say for instance in California, where a child can choose their own gender, and as a parent you don't have a right to determine what that is, and so a parent, the teachers in the school can actually collude with them to actually deceive you, the parent. Are you familiar with that? So would that be operating out of ignorance by not understanding what a particular person believes, or talking about the laws governing a particular society?
When I said ignorance, I wasn't saying it out of, or in an attempt to shame you.
Of course not. You wouldn't do that at all.
I mean having a lack of information,
okay.
Not being informed, or choosing not to be informed, and choosing not to seek out differing opinions or differing.
So were you aware of what I said to you just now about the laws and how they obtain in California?
But which laws exactly are those?
The ones that govern gender transition and govern how persons can navigate their own. And what we're talking about here, for me particularly, which is why I identified my son, is parenting rights, and how that translates to gender identity.
From what I know about laws for transgender people,
yes,
and surrounding transition, they don't typically allow children to transition. They don't allow them to take
They don't allow them to
hormones.
physically transition, but you can as of 4. You can choose your gender. As a matter of fact, there's a
Yes.
push now to actually not have gender identity at the beginning of birth, so you're just identified as child born as opposed to assigning male or female. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, because
Okay, cool.
for me, I would identify as a cisgender woman, or an
What's a
AFAB
cisgender woman?
So cisgender is your this is funny. Okay, so cisgender basically refers to someone who still identifies with their gender at birth. And AFAB, which would mean assigned female at birth, or you can also have assigned male at birth.
Lovely. So you are familiar with what we're talking about here, and so what we'll be able to explore is you're not comfortable just calling yourself woman anymore.
I am.
All right, but you want to qualify that by saying cisgender.
No, I understand that in different spaces I would have to specify more about my identity.
Okay.
And if that makes other people comfortable and it doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form, I don't see why I shouldn't do that.
Of course not. Right? And so the idea here as we're exploring these things is to recognize, as you're saying, recognize that persons have choice, they can do whatever else they want, and you want to be able to respect that. Are you familiar with the law in Canada, I think circa 2016, I believe, where it became a, let's call it a crime, so to speak, to misgender someone?
I think that law was passed in the UK. And
Canada.
they've since
I'm not familiar if
rescinded
it's in about the UK, but I know in Canada.
A law like that was passed in the UK, but it's since been rescinded.
No,
It's
so
all-
I'm talking about
yeah.
specifically in
In
Canada.
Canada.
It still obtains in Canada. So if it was passed in the UK and then resolved, then that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the idea that if you decide that you want to be a man tomorrow and I don't recognize you as a man, then essentially I may be committing a hate crime. That means that is forcing me to participate in, let's say, your delusion.
What was the definition of misgendering in the law, though? Because-
Misgendering is not calling you by the gender that you are claiming.
Yes, that's the social definition, but what was the definition
That's what I'm talking
in the law?
Not addressing you by the gender that you are claiming. And that has nothing to do with you. You look fabulous, by the way, sitting there right now. And if you choose to identify as a man, as you are right now, I'm supposed to call you, recognize you as a man. Do you agree with that? That makes sense to you?
Yes, if it involves you respecting the person and not disrespecting the person and how they feel, then yeah.
Okay, so it would be a disrespect then for me to see you as a woman, looking fabulous as you are, and say, you look like a fabulous woman. And you go, no, I'm a man. I'm disrespecting you.
I don't really think that there are. I don't believe that there are a lot of people who identify as men that present femininely to the point where they present as women.
Actually,
Excuse me.
actually, you'd be surprised to see. I mean, there's a wide spectrum on the internet of persons, and of course influencers as well, who present masculine and then of course they claim female, or vice versa, present feminine and then claim masculinity. So that's available. And as you're saying, if persons are individuals and you're respecting them, then you're required to respect them as well.
But if you don't have any daily interaction with these individuals, why should it affect you that much?
Great question. And so here is the message. Here's the root. Part of one of the things that was happening in, I think this is the New York school district, is men who were men presenting as men but decided to dress up as women. They wanted the right to access children, and so they wanted to be able to read to children in schools. I'm not comfortable with that.
Are you talking about drag queens?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So part of what they were looking at, and I think the governor, the mayor was in there celebrating with them, and he's slapping him on his button. This is what we're presenting to children. There's also a bunch of books that we're putting in schools talking about these things, gender transitioning, and what I'm trying to separate out here is, where do we separate sexuality from gender identity? Because I'm having a hard time kind of separating them. Where do we separate sexuality from gender identity? For male and female, we understand what those things are, but what are we looking at when we're really talking about someone who wants to dress up like a female, even though they're a male, and then present themselves as not just, as you've said, not just something I want for myself, but something I believe that everyone else should respect and recommend, or something that everyone else should just be okay with. Because I'm fine if you choose whatever you choose for yourself. But what the line happens, or the challenge happens, when you start presenting that as something that we should all participate in.
I don't think drag queens believe that everyone should participate in drag.
Yeah, we believe that we should recognize them as, like you said, women, and that's why you use the term cisgendered woman, because you're recognizing that you want to be inclusive. So there must be something informing that need to be inclusive, because before, when I was growing up, you just had two boxes: male, female, man, woman. But now we have different boxes. What do you think has caused the new boxes?
The empowerment of different people finally being able to voice their opinions and not be killed for it.
Okay, fair enough. And we don't advocate the killing of anyone. We're not in support of killing anyone. What we're recognizing here is the choice. If you get to choose that you want to be something else that you want to be, that is your right? Because we're all given free choice. Mm-hmm. Why don't I get to choose to not recognize that?
I think it stems from, or the question that you're asking really looks at why you feel like it's okay to disrespect another person.
And I love how you frame that, but keep going.
Because, take for example, mm-hmm. if I decide to go on the road,
yes,
and I see a man with a receding hairline, mm-hmm. and I laugh at him saying that he's gonna go bald, his hairline is receding, blah blah blah, that's disrespectful. I didn't have to point that out, right? I could have just walked by and let him be with his receding hairline, because that's a sensitive topic for a lot of men. Mm-hmm. Just like how gender expression and gender identity is a sensitive topic for a lot of people. It's not hidden or secret information that is a sensitive topic for a lot of people. So because we know that, and because we know the impact and the effect that our disrespect and disregard can have for these individuals, it's important for us as a society, as people, as humans, to be able to recognize that and not go out of our way to intentionally disrespect or harm someone. I understand that it can be very confusing for you to see someone who presents as masculine or feminine and then have them have a different gender expression. That's understandable, right? However, if they go out of their way or out of their comfort zone to say, hey, I don't use she, her pronouns, I use she, they pronouns, or I use he, him pronouns, and they're having that level of vulnerability with you to say, I don't feel comfortable with this and I'm speaking up about it. You going and then intentionally doing the thing that they don't feel comfortable with is disrespect.
Okay, and I can appreciate you saying that, and I can appreciate how you framed it, and it sounds wonderful, right? In that you want to be able to offer respect to persons, especially if they have presented themselves as vulnerable, right?
Yes.
What if I said that you go against that all the time?
Meaning?
Has there ever been a guy who's come to you and said, hey, you know what, I really like you, and he's making himself vulnerable, isn't he? Do you accept every guy who presents themselves as vulnerable to you?
But I don't really see how that would be
No,
them
walk with me.
presenting themselves as vulnerable.
Don't you think it takes a lot out of a man to walk up to a pretty girl like yourself and go, I've been over here looking at you, I've been thinking about you, and I really like you. I don't really talk to girls often, and so I'm making myself vulnerable because you're so special that I want to connect with you. That's not making himself vulnerable?
Am I so special, or am I just a woman that's near at the time?
That is something that you can qualify, but in this instance, he's saying that you're special. Why is it that you're disbelieving him in the words that he's expressed to you? Why is it that you're discrediting what he's expressed to you and even putting down his vulnerability in this instance? But when someone tells you that they want to identify as she, her, you automatically lean into that. What is happening there? What do you think?
Because those people are a part of a historically oppressed population. Men are not a part of a historically oppressed population.
Why not? Why do you think that? Who's died in the most wars? Men or women?
Who was eligible to be drafted in those wars?
Great question. And why do you think men are eligible and women are not?
They didn't believe that women were capable.
And even now that they're capable, why do you still have an overwhelming majority of armies male?
Because of the hostile environment that they provide for women. Because they still don't believe that women are capable.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. What informs that for you? Because I can drop some facts on you. Say, for instance, even for even in the police force or in the fire, they've had to reduce standards in order to allow women to qualify. Why? Because you're not as strong as me.
And why is that?
Because that's how we were designed. I was designed, when we go through puberty, we get different gifts. Can we agree on that? Can that be one of the things that we agree on? Mm-hmm. All right. So when we go through puberty, you got the ability to have children, and I got more upper body strength. That means if both of us grew up under the same conditions, I'm going to be stronger than you. That's just how it works.
But then it also depends on what you do in your free time to maintain and to, maintain and obtain your upper body strength. For example...
One second. Under the same conditions. So whatever I do, you do. If we both do the same thing, I'm going to have more upper body strength than you.
But you have to look at why that is.
Because
men's hormone cycle is a 24-hour hormone cycle. Mm-hmm. Women's hormone cycle is
we don't have the same hormones
day hormone cycle.
But we don't have the same hormones.
We do have the same hormones.
We don't have the same hormones accomplishing the same things. Men have I have 17 times as much testosterone as you do. So
yes,
we don't have the
but
same
your
hormones.
the same testosterone that you have, I have,
mm-hmm.
and it accomplishes the same goals.
Are you sure?
Yes, that's how hormones work.
So you're disbelieve. So you're saying, let me back up to make sure we're on the same page. Do you believe quantities matter?
Can you rephrase that?
I said I have 17 times as much testosterone in my body mm-hmm. than you. Mm-hmm. Usually that's the difference between males and females. And so the hormones accomplish different things in us based on their quantities. If I adjust that quantity, gender transition, then that balance shifts, right? If I lower my testosterone and raise my, estrogen, then that means I start growing boobs. Yes or no?
The quantity.
No, let's start there. Wait. Can you answer that question?
Finish.
No, I want you to answer the question before you continue.
I am trying to answer the question.
But it's a yes or no question, though. It's a yes or no question.
But it's not a yes or no question.
But that's the one I asked.
That's not what you asked.
I asked if you agree with that.
and I don't. And I'm
Okay,
explaining
so the answer is no.
why
Okay, great.
I don't, but you are interrupting me. Okay, thank
I just
you.
want us to be clear on what is happening here.
And I'm trying to clarify, and you keep interrupting me.
No, actually, I can't interrupt you because it's my show. I want us to be clear on what's happening here. I get to ask you
said
questions.
that this was supposed to be a conversation.
No, it's never a conversation. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to talk things through. I want you to be clear on who I am. I'm the host, and who you are. You're the guest. So you get a chance to respond to my questions because it's not a debate. I'm trying to ask you some things so that we can get to where we need to be together.
But if we're supposed to talk things through, aren't you supposed to listen to what I have to say without interrupting so you can
Actually,
get
no,
the
that's
full
not how it works.
scope of what I'm trying to say?
I need to give you the guidelines of where we are because we follow my guidelines. Are we clear on that?
So then it's not a conversation, it's not a talk through, it's a talk over. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, you can't talk over me
So you're talking over me.
because I'm the host. I can do that because I can control the direction of the show.
Interesting. Okay. Anyways, to answer your
No,
question.
no. There is no anyways. Are we clear on that?
I'm trying to answer the
No,
question.
no.
that
We're
you
we're
asked
parked
me.
on something
Now
else.
that you've clarified your role and my role, I'm answering your question.
And before you go, gentlemen, and this is why this is important. It is important for us to recognize what happens in the male-female dynamic to make sure that we can be on the same page, right? It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you believe yourself to be. A woman will always challenge your authority, and that's what that design looks like. And what you do as men is very important. We need to manage that situation, manage that interaction in a way that allows it to be peaceful because we don't react emotionally. We're good? All right. You got a chance to breathe through that?
Sure.
All right, good. So what we're talking about here is gender roles and gender dynamics and how those things interact. And we're looking specifically at hormones and how those things affect us.
I understand.
Good.
You explained it quite well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being able to recognize how well I do things. And so when we look at that, we appreciate that human beings, male and female, have different quantities of hormones in our bodies, and these accomplish different things. Even in your 24-day cycle, at different points, you have different quantities of hormones coursing through your body. And that in and of itself accomplishes different things. That's how your cycle builds up all the wonderful things in your womb that allows you to make presence ready for a child. And if that doesn't happen, then hormones come in again and cause that to break down. Right? That's just science. We have to be able to agree on those things. And that is controlled by the different quantities of hormones in our bodies. Do you differ? Do you disagree with that?
Biologically, yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. You had a different opinion, though. Quantities, you said earlier that quantities don't matter.
I never said that the quantities don't matter.
Okay.
I'm just saying that hormones have different jobs based on the type of hormone that they are. Because of that, regardless of the quantity of the hormone is still going to do its job, even if it's 10 times or 50 times the amount that's in your body. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, and you believe that to be accurate?
Yes, because that's science.
Okay, so why do men take testosterone replacement when they get past a certain age, and why do women take estrogen replacement when they get past a certain age? And what is happening in gender transition?
In most cases, women take estrogen replacement when they're experiencing menopause to lessen the menopause symptoms. I did not know about men taking testosterone replacements, but I would guess that that would just have to be to lessen the symptoms of erectile dysfunction.
No, even without they also use it in performance. It's actually performance enhancing. So it doesn't. It has something to do with erectile dysfunction, but men use it to actually, because as you grow older, what menopause is that the hormones in your body, they're reducing in quantity.
I know what menopause is. I'm a woman.
Same thing is happening for men. The hormones in your body, they're reducing in quantity. So I know we may believe that quantities don't matter, but they do. They do, because you recognize that menopause is a real thing.
Yes, I never said that quantities don't matter. I say that regardless of the quantity, the hormone does the job it was designed to do. As far as I know, for performance enhancing drugs, it's normally metabolic steroids or growth hormones. I don't have any
It's called
knowledge.
TRT. You can look it up after the show, right? So what it does is, what do you call this thing? Testosterone actually impacts muscle growth, tissue development and those kinds of things. So men will actually, they've done a couple of studies recently where they've had 4 groups: men who did no exercise at all, men who did some exercise and they had no TRT. They did men who exercised, took TRT, and they had men who, so we had 2 no's, 2 yeses, right? And men who took TRT and did a lot of exercise. Did I get all of those 4 right? So exercise with enhancement, no exercise, no enhancement. Then you have exercise, no enhancement, and then you have no enhancement or no exercise and just enhancement. And what you found was that even the person who didn't exercise at all, once they took the number was 600 milligrams of testosterone, their muscles grew in spades above even the people who exercised all by themselves.
Where was the study based?
Say again?
Where was the study based?
I can look it up afterwards and I can send you the link. But the idea here is we're recognizing the impact of the quantities of the hormones in our bodies and what that job that they do and how they accomplish that job, right? So the fact that you have less testosterone is part and parcel to why you have less muscle tissue. And so that's why when we're going through gender transition, what you do is increase whichever hormone that you're looking to towards the direction that you're trying to transition into. So if that means you are trying to be, you're a young lady like yourself and you're trying to become a male, what do? Increase your testosterone. If you're trying to be a woman and what do? Decrease your testosterone and increase your estrogen, right? So that we can start having those body breaks. So quantities do matter. I'm hearing you say that you're saying that's not what you're saying.
I never said that quantities don't matter. I just said that regardless of the quantity, the hormone will do the job it was designed to do. I think you're misinterpreting my words.
I'm trying to get there with you because I'd love to believe that I'm misinterpreting, right? Because then it's something that I can fix and work through. But I'm hearing you say that regardless of the quantity, the hormone will do what it's designed to do.
Yes.
But that's like saying if I put a cap full of gas in my car, I can still drive to East End.
That's completely different.
Why is it completely different? Because that's what it was designed to do.
Because you know that you need a tank full of gas to go to East End.
Great.
I'm saying
and what
that
I'm trying to explain to you
quantity,
is
the
that
hormone will do the job it was designed to do because that is science.
Okay, but the science says the difference between you and I, male and female, is I have more testosterone. You're saying that is irrelevant.
I never said that.
I'm asking you to qualify that.
I never said that.
Okay. So you're saying, so to make sure I'm clear, because I want to be able to agree with you. I want to be able to be on the same page with you. I want to be able to understand you. Of course, because we really get to connect when we can really have that space where I can see where you're saying. I don't have to agree with you, but I can see what you're saying. But right now, the logic is not connecting. Right? It's not connecting for me if we're saying, hey, the quantities don't matter, but the science, because that's science, but then the science says the quantity does matter.
I never said that the quantity does not matter. I said that regardless of the quantity, the hormone will do the job it was supposed to do. I think I've said that about 5 times now.
Great. So you're saying, do you believe that you have testosterone in your body?
I do.
Okay. And
just like how you have estrogen and progesterone in your body.
Great. So do you believe it has anything to do with your muscle tissue or nothing at all? Or it just covers, you mentioned earlier, erectile dysfunction?
I think it does have something to do with my muscle tissue, but I also think that the amount of protein that I eat and the exercise that I do and the amount of creatine that I have in my body also has something to do with muscle tissue. Our bodies work as a system. Hormones don't work in a silo. That's how God created it. Our different organs work off each other and help each other to do different things.
Okay, excellent. And so what you're talking about here is you're recognizing that hormones, I just want to make sure we can have a great, you're recognizing that hormones do have a thing to play in your body.
I already said that.
And when you recognize that, you're recognizing that when these things happen, nature or nurture, you can contribute to it by eating protein, eating some more chicken. So you believe that by eating chicken, you can have your muscles can become as big as mine.
That's not what I said.
I'm asking. See, I'm trying to clarify. You don't see what
You're
I'm doing?
asking, and I'm saying that that's not what I said.
Okay, okay. So what are you saying?
I am saying that a combination of different things can impact muscle growth. That is what I said. It's not just dependent on how much testosterone you have. Like you said before with the study,
Yes.
the testosterone that they were given was in addition to the testosterone that they already had in their bodies. And the reason why I asked you where that study was done is because different races have different levels of testosterone. Different men have different levels of testosterone, just like how different women have different levels of estrogen and testosterone. So, having that distinction and having that disclosure in a scientific study is really important when you're trying to look at the empirical evidence that supports the hypothesis that was presented.
And of course, that sounds intelligent, but by the nature
It's
of the
the
studies,
truth.
what we try to do is to make sure that we have a cross section, because if we don't have a cross section, then it is invalid. So being able to say, hey, because it's all black men or it's all black women becomes moot. So I don't know.
I never said that. I just said that the demographic of the participants
Is
is
going
important.
to be a sample. It's going to be a sample, and if it's not a sample of society, then it's not a sample at all.
Yes.
Right? So that's science. So we must be able to agree on the scientific principle. We must be able to identify the scientific process. Right? So discrediting a study based on going whether or not it fit into the scientific process would be erroneous, because then it wouldn't be a scientific study.
If you have a study
That falls
only
outside of the
features
site.
black men,
Uh-huh.
and they say that the results of the study are applicable to all men, that would be false.
Absolutely. But it would
Which
be
is why
applicable to all black men. So that would be a specific scientific
it still
study
would
based
not
on
be
black
applicable
men.
to all black men.
Do you believe in science?
I already said that I do. I
Okay.
don't understand why you're asking that question.
Because it sounds like you're choosing some things that you want to believe and other things that fit into your worldview, and you can hop between the two at any point.
It's funny because I think that's what you're doing.
Okay, and I can appreciate you being able to say that. I can appreciate you being able to get there, because especially when our worldview gets challenged, the easiest thing for us to do is to challenge the person across from us, as opposed to being able to look at the facts in front of us.
My worldview is secure. I am just saying that you are not looking at empirical evidence for a research study. That is what I'm saying.
You're categorically saying I'm not looking at empirical evidence for a research study. What informs that for you?
The fact that you can't tell me the demographic of the people or the limitations of the study that you read.
So I need to
Every
prove the
study
study.
has limitations,
Uh-huh.
and they're listed in the study in the academic article.
And that makes perfect sense. And would that help you to appreciate what I'm saying more or less right now?
More,
If I gave you the
because
demographic.
I'm not saying that you need to give me the demographic. I am just saying that the limitations of studies are very important, right? You can't just present a view without presenting an opposing view and understanding what those implications mean to your view or to your study. That's not how scientific research goes. That's not how empirical research is.
And that seems to make sense, right?
Because it does.
Until you get to the place where you're able to appreciate, all right, there are some things that happen whether you believe them or not. Yes or no?
Okay, yes.
So like tomorrow the sun's going to come up whether you agree or not.
Why would I not agree that the sun is going to come up?
Because you
The
have free
analogy
choice.
doesn't make sense.
Because you have free choice. You can choose because remember, you can choose what you want to believe. Isn't that what you said earlier? I can choose to believe that I'm a female even though I was born a male. I can choose that, right?
If it fits your gender expression, sure.
So if it fits my expression, the sun's not going to come up tomorrow. That fits my expression. I believe that the world is dark. I'm a vampire. Right? Doesn't that fit into my... right? And so when we recognize that we live in a world that we have to agree on some things, then we have to determine what those things are. Would you agree or disagree? We have to agree on what those things are.
I would agree, but I believe that your analogy and your roundabout way of going through this whole conversation is an attempt to discredit the fact that what I said was correct.
And
Every
what's
research
correct?
article has limitations, has subjects, and they, most of the times, especially when it's a biological research paper,
Mhm.
they are going to look at pre-existing factors with the participants. So the fact that you disregarded those elements may be because they would discredit or disprove or challenge your own worldviews is very telling.
And I can appreciate how you may think or say that. And again, because the idea here is in the absence of facts, in the absence of truth, in the absence of a relevant challenge to what I'm actually saying, then what you're going to try to do is to discredit what I'm saying just based on that, right? So what I am trying to say to you though is that as human beings, as men, it's important for us to be able to manage our testosterone because contrary to what you're hearing right now, testosterone in men is different to testosterone in women. There's higher levels of testosterone in men, right? 17 times, and some for some men it's even higher. And the testosterone in women is very, very low, sometimes even point something here. And so when you recognize those things, you recognize that we're different. We're both born in the womb, or we're both in the womb, and we develop based on the hormones in our bodies. This is science. This is what science actually does. And the hormones in your body can push you to one direction or another, right? And so these are things that happen in our lives whether we agree with them or not. There are some things that we need to agree on, and these are the societal things, which brings us back to gender roles, because what we're really talking about is how those differences express themselves in our everyday life, right? In our everyday life, if we have more muscles, then that means we're invited to do more work. We go back to the army, whether we agree or not that men and women are the same. If a woman can't lift the same amount of weight as a man, then those two people, a man and a woman, going into the battlefield, if one of them gets hurt, say the woman, the man can pull her to safety. If he gets hurt and she is unable to manage that weight, then she can't pull him to safety. And so this is why they actually have these weight requirements in these different jobs. Even in office jobs, sometimes you'll see, hey, on the person must be able to lift 30 pounds or whatever number is based on what that job. If you're gonna lift cement, I think it's a 100-pound bag or 50-pound bag, right? So different things express themselves, and we work through different things. We work through different jobs to do that. Men, again, same testosterone invites us to be a little bit more risk taking. So men have, over the history of time, been greater risk takers than women, right? And so what that actually looks like, and that's for protective purposes, to help our society to develop. If someone else gets pregnant, if your wife gets pregnant and she still needs to eat, she still needs to eat, right? The man's not going to get pregnant because that's not how his body expressed itself, right? And so he has a responsibility, gender roles, to go out and provide for her. He has a responsibility to provide for that child in order to make sure that our species can continue.
So what does provision look like?
Provision is going to look like, while she's sitting in the cave, safe from lions and tigers and all the other things that are going to hurt her, he now needs to, whether he's afraid or not, go outside, brave tigers and lions and all those things, and hunt deer or hunt buffalo so that she will have something to eat. If she were on that battlefield with him, she now becomes a liability, because rather than hunting and providing, he has to also protect her from the dangers that would damage her or the child, thereby putting our society or race at risk.
That would be providing in a prehistoric context. What would providing be in a modern day context? Because
Great
we don't
question.
need to face lions and tigers and bears.
Of course not, but for whatever reason, these things have still expressed themselves in our DNA. So while a woman may not need a man to go and hunt because of lions and tigers and bears, an overwhelming majority of women still prefer men who are stronger than themselves, taller than themselves. I think that it's 6'6", right? You prefer men who are taller than you by or above 6 feet. How tall is your boyfriend?
I would say 5'10".
5'10"? Okay. Right. And to make more money than them because, hey, provision. So if he, I mean, you're 19, so you probably have a different view. But if you guy invited you out on a first date and said, hey, you sat down and he says, hey, we're going Dutch. How do you feel about that?
I would feel fine.
All right. See, and that's why again at the beginning of the conversation we try to ask the questions of what age you are because these things do make a difference. So you'd feel fine with him going, hey, you pay for your meal, I pay for mine. If you are hanging out together, you're not dating yet. I mean, he's just inviting you out on a first date. Someone says something to you that is off color and hey, or threatens you with violence. He sits down and go, well, we're equal. You can go defend yourself. You'd be okay with that too. That's a question.
That's why I talked about equity in the beginning before we started and not equality.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're speaking in hypotheticals. You're not giving real life situations, right? If, for example, I was out with my boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
a man was leering at me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just say, oh my God, help, right? I didn't just immediately turn to him. I told him what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I looked back at the man and told him to stop,
Mm-hmm.
and then I left,
Mm-hmm.
right? Women, while men can be protectors, saying that men are solely protectors and when a woman is with a man she should not be able to protect herself is discrediting to the strength that women have. Like you said, men have physical strength, right? Women can have physical strength, but they also have different types of strength that men don't have because the experiences that men have differ from the experiences that women have. So our experiences.
So in the specific scenario I gave you, I want you to get on the same page. The specific scenario
you're not
I gave you.
letting me finish.
I know. I want to bring you
speaking.
back. I want to bring you back because you've gone with your boyfriend, and I asked you about a guy on a first date. You remember me saying that? You're not dating yet.
Okay.
Would that be a realistic scenario before you met your boyfriend? Before you settled down with him?
Yes.
It's a
Sure.
realistic scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you for approving. Right. And so here, in that context, someone is threatening you, and he sits there at the table and lets you take care of it on your own. How do you see him? Do you look at him? Because you're saying equity, so you're saying that's perfectly okay. I'm trying to clarify that with you.
We're on a first date.
Uh-huh.
He does not know me. I know me.
Mhm.
I will defend myself. I will take my things and I will leave.
Why
if
would you
we
leave?
speak again, because that situation has now become dangerous to me, I will speak my piece and pick up my things and leave. Like I was saying before you interrupted, the strengths that women have are different from the strengths that men have because our experiences inform the strengths that we develop.
And what you're still not hearing, what I'm trying to help us to be able to get to the same page, to be able to have a conversation. And gentlemen, being able to have conversations with women can be challenging, right? This is one of the things that you do work through, being able to help each other to be on the same page because we do look at the world differently. We see the world through a different lens. Men have a far more difficult experience than women. Why? Women are oftentimes challenged by that thought because we don't have the choice in how we experience the world. We talked about most men are actually invisible to most women. And that is because men are required to have a particular, in order for them to even be attractive, they must present themselves. In order for you to get a phone number, in order for you to be able to even have that first conversation. Because like you said earlier, when these men present themselves to you, if they don't measure up, you don't entertain.
That's not what I said. That's just not what I said.
So you entertain every man that presents themselves to you.
Again, that's not what I said. If I'm interested in the person, then I'm interested in the person.
And that's what I thought that's what I just said.
That's
right?
not what
So
you just said.
if-
You said if they measure up to my standards, and I said if I am interested.
Great. Okay. So let's see if we can translate feminese to masculinese. What
We're
does
speaking the same language.
what does interest look like versus what did you say, attraction look like? What does interest look like versus what measure up looks like? Right? Because for me, measure up means measure up to what you find interesting. So if he doesn't cross that hurdle, then he would be not interesting, not attractive. And so you wouldn't entertain him, right?
Attraction varies from person to person.
We're talking about you here, right? This person sitting
I
across
thought you were
from me.
generalizing for
No,
all women. That's what you said, right?
No, I asked you a question. I asked you a very specific question. And I asked you a question about attraction. So that wouldn't be a generalized question, would it?
Interesting. I'm just trying to understand so that both of us can also be on the same page, because I feel like, or what I'm hearing from you is a lack of understanding, a lack of interpretation, and a lack of processing for my words.
That sounds really interesting. And what would help you what would be informing that for you? Because I thought I'm trying
Your
to
responses, especially your sarcastic response just now.
I'm trying to unpack what you're saying because so we can have a conversation. But you keep going at personal attacks. I'm not sure
How
why.
is it a personal attack if I say that I feel like I'm being disrespected? Earlier you said that we're supposed to respect each other in our responses. I'm not feeling very respected right now.
What would
you're
help you to
being
feel more
sarcastic, you're talking over me, and
Because
you're
I'm the
not
host. We're clear on
processing the
that.
information that I am saying.
I'm very clear right now. Let me sit back. I'm being very clear with you right now. I'm the host, and I'm managing the conversation in a way that is meaningful to my guests, in a way that is meaningful to my viewers.
You already established that.
Yes. And so that means I have to help you to get into a frame or into a space that is, again, meaningful to them. So I will have to cut you off if you're going off in a different direction that is going to be annoying or unmeaningful or not meaningful to the guests. Can you understand that?
The point of the show was for men to understand the perspectives of women. So why
Absolutely.
would cutting off the perspective of women be helpful for your viewers?
Because some perspectives are not helpful. If I was trying to get to East End and you kept telling me about West Bay, would that be helpful? Let me help you. No, it wouldn't. And so what I would do is shut that down so we can have a conversation about East End.
So if you keep talking to me about respect and not veering off from the course of the conversation, yet you do that, would that be unproductive?
It would be unproductive to continue in a conversation where you keep trying to go off on your own. And
Which
I'm
is
trying
what
to help
you're
you.
doing.
Which is what I'm doing? I'm trying to get you to go in the direction that I'm taking the show in, because this is my show.
I never said it wasn't.
So you have to learn how to follow me so that we can have a dance together.
I understand how to have conversations. I don't think you understand.
I'm not sure you do. I'm thinking that you've lived in a world where whatever you say goes, and so
That's
being
not true.
being in an environment where I'm inviting you to walk in a particular direction is challenging for you. It's triggering for you.
I have no problems with having conversations with people who have differing views from me. I have a problem when I'm being
led.
disrespected and talked over. Your opinion is your opinion. You
You feel like you're being disrespected right now?
Yes, I do. You're
Okay.
being very sarcastic and jeering, and it's not a very attractive quality for anyone to have, let alone a man.
And that's interesting, and I'm glad you said that. I'm going to invite you to step away, right? And thank you for coming out. And what I invite men to recognize is that you will always be challenged no matter what you do. Again, this is my show, and you choose to have a conversation. Instead of being able to follow me in the direction I'm inviting you to walk in, you're choosing to walk in your own direction, and you're thinking that seeing me guiding you as something that is disrespectful for you, me helping you to walk in the direction that is useful and meaningful, is somehow demeaning to you. And so as such, it means we can't walk together.
We
can't walk together. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to invite you to leave. We're going to thank you for coming out and invite you to say, hey, thank you for joining us on The Wrecking Trade tonight. And we'll continue talking about how one of the things that happens for us as men, this happens all the time. And so I do understand that some men, we do find ourselves in situations where having to tell a woman to walk away is something that is challenging, and it's a place that we have to get comfortable in. It's a place that we have to get comfortable in recognizing that not all women can operate in your frame. And if a female can't operate in your frame, that's okay. Persons can choose however they want to experience the world. Persons can choose how they want to connect in the space, and that's all right. You just have to recognize that that is not okay for you, and it's okay for men to have boundaries. It's okay for you to establish your boundaries. We're going to take a quick break, and after the break, we're coming right back.
Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., the radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined. Welcome to The Wrecking Trade, this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m., the radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa, where beauty is reimagined.
Welcome back to The Wrecking Trade. I'm your host, Robert Lynch, and we've been having an interesting conversation with a young lady. She's a 19-year-old, and so we can appreciate that some of her views are going to be different and difficult to interpret because, of course, at that point, your intelligence is still developing. Our brains get together at about 25, and so with that, what we're looking at is being able to help men to appreciate what is happening in those dynamics, and especially if a girl feels like she is pretty, and so you don't have the right to tell her no or to have a different opinion. The first thing that happened, you will notice, was disrespect. Sign language is called shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. And so with shame, the first thing is to tell you that, hey, guess what? Whatever you believe that is different to what they believe is going to be shamed. And so if a man believes in gender roles, then of course he's a misogynist. Why? Because we're supposed to be equal and everything is supposed to be equitable. But that's not how things work. That's not how science works. That's not how physicality works. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, and so I'm invited, I'm required, as a matter of fact, to take care of those around me, and especially if you bring the Bible into that. And if you want to jump in on the chat, let me know what's going on, because if men are not men were invited, assigned by God to have dominion over the world, to take care of the world, and dominion here can be triggering for some persons, but to take care of the world around them, including the women in their lives. And this is particularly important as a starting place for any conversation as a man in the church, because if we don't recognize what our role is, then we may find ourselves drifting around without purpose. So if our first purpose is to take care of the world around us, that means taking care of your family, that means taking care of your wife, that means taking care of your children, that means taking care of your extended family, that means taking care of our church, then we have a responsibility there. And for the woman, a woman is invited to, when we go to Genesis 2, looking at 15 to 18, a woman is invited to recognize that, hey, it is not good for a man to be alone. And when man is paired with the right woman, because this is very, very important. If you're not paired with the right woman, this can be a thorn in your side. I think the Bible says it is better to live in a corner of the house than to live in a full house with a quarrelous woman, right?
And so when we recognize this, then men, we are invited to be a little bit more selective. To be a little bit more selective with the women that we invite in our lives, because that can make a huge difference between whether you are on purpose, on mission, and actually have success, or your life is squandered. Right? One of the things that happens in Genesis 2:15-18 is that the first thing that we recognize is that God creates man and then places him in the Garden of Eden. And Eden, as we recognize it, is not a place actually. It is actually the presence. The word Eden means the presence of God. So a man is invited to find himself in the presence of God. And in the presence of God, he can find his purpose. He can find what he was designed to do. And then when you recognize that, you move on to verse 16. You realize that the next thing that God offers to man is to give him purpose. He was assigned work. His job was to what? Go ahead and name all the animals, to have dominion over the garden, to have dominion over the space that he was placed in. So he was placed in the presence of God, then he was given dominion over everything that was in his place. And that dominion meant he was to be the caretaker. So not to dominate, but to take care of those around him, to take care of all the animals, to take care of all the trees, to take care of the space. So a man or a boy becomes a man when he learns these things. He learns how to find his purpose. He learns how to find his work. He learns how to find things to do with his hands that allow him to fulfill what he was designed to do. At the end of that design, the Bible tells us that, guess what? Man saw that it was not good for man. God saw that it was not good for man to be alone. And so at this point, he creates woman. But there's something that I didn't realize before, I didn't notice before, and that is the assignment or the command to not eat from the tree was actually given to Adam before Eve came in his life. Right, Mikey? The command was given to man before Eve came into his life. So before the woman came into his life, he was invited to be in God's presence. Then he was given work, and he was given the task of taking care of everything around him. And then he was taught by God. That he was taught what right was and what wrong was, so that he could understand that. So when the woman came into his life, the woman that God gave him, he then had a responsibility in that space to do what? To teach her, to help her, to guide her, so that, and Ephesians 5 verse 27 tells us that, hey, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church. And it continues to tell us that he actually what? Gave his life for her. But not just that, he also helped her by cleansing her and then presenting himself. God presents the church back to himself as faultless and as clean. So as men, we have a responsibility to help women to understand what they need to be in the presence of a man, in the presence of the right man. Because again, to women specifically, you can't squander yourself to any man. If a man hasn't qualified himself, if a man hasn't defined himself, if he hasn't found his purpose, he can lead you astray. If the man is unable to lead, then he can't lead you in the right direction. So as women, you have to be more selective, but be clear on our purpose. If we can both be clear on what we were designed to do, understand who we are under God, then we can walk together in a beautiful dance, because we understand how to respect each other, how to support each other, and how to lift each other up on purpose, and then how to walk together as we build our society. And last week with Kashika, we kind of touched on a couple of things that cause men to have a challenge with some women. If I were to run through the list really quickly, it says women don't seem as fun. And so sometimes you're having a conversation with women, and you want to make the experience an experience, something that you can both enjoy. And so if you're in the wrong presence, if we're not enjoying, just like, God says, come, let us reason together. If we're not enjoying the engagement, if we're not enjoying the interaction, then it's a miserable experience. And as men, sometimes we're so preoccupied with getting into a relationship or getting with that woman because sometimes the hormones get the better of us, right, Mikey? Sometimes the hormones get the better of us, and we're so focused with getting the girl that we may entertain some foolishness. We may engage in some foolishness. We may allow some disrespect in our lives that has no place there. Because men should have standards. Men should set the boundaries of where they should walk. Because what? The Bible tells us that your job is to teach her. She doesn't know. She doesn't understand. She doesn't have the appreciation that you have. She doesn't have the history. Man was created before woman. She doesn't have the experience that you have. And so if she's trying to give you a particular experience, sure, she might have been trained by someone else. She might have been guided by someone else. But you have to help her to be there. And that help can mean, hey, right now is just not the right time for us to be in each other's space. Because this is not going to be productive. This is not going to be helpful to any of us. And that's okay. That is perfectly okay. We're not forcing anyone to be in any place that they don't want to be with. But you must know who you are. Right, Mikey? My producer Mikey is sitting in the studio and nodding because he knows what's going on. He can see it, right? We look like we can't be bothered, and sometimes women give you that look on their faces that says, hey, they can't be bothered, and that's okay. Don't bother them. Leave them alone. If a woman tells you that she wants to be alone, leave her alone. Let's stop trying to prove ourselves to women. Let's try to prove ourselves to God. Let's try to find our purpose so that we can be who that we were designed to be. And when you are who you were designed to be, guess what happens? There you go. The right persons present themselves because they can recognize the value in you. The persons who value what you have to offer will present themselves when you are beaming your value. If you are finding yourself in a place where you're covering your value, then the people who are looking for you can't find you. If you're covering your light, if you're hiding your light, if you're being less than who you were designed to be, so that other people around you can feel more comfortable, so they can feel okay with the poor choices that they make, then that's a poor light on you. So get in the gym, gentlemen. Let's get those push-ups. If you can't make it to the gym, let's get on the ground and get those push-ups going. 20 push-ups every night or in the morning, so you can start feeling that oxytocin coursing around your body. You can start feeling the goodness of exercise. You can start feeling the joy of finding your blood getting full and rich with oxygen, and have your brain functioning, running at a different level. This is important. Once you can get started, because that's one of the things that we have direct control over right away. And this is for men and women. Get some exercise. Get outside. Get some sunlight. Get some vitamin D. Get some sunlight on your skin and some oxygen in your chest. And once you can get there, then we can start moving and we can start thinking in different ways. We can start asking ourselves, why have I always done these things? Why do I think the way that I think? I'm saying these words, I believe in God, but they don't align with God's word. What's happening there? What is the challenge that I'm having with the words as they were expressed by the person who I claim to be my creator? And if I'm having a challenge there, and I believe that the Bible is right, and I believe that God is right, then maybe there's something that is corrupting my understanding of what God has invited me to be. Maybe there's something corrupting my appreciation of who I was designed to be. And if something is doing that, and I get a chance to take a moment, I get a chance to root it out. If you're trying to grow a nice garden and weeds keep growing up in your garden, then you get a chance to pause, take a break, and start pulling those weeds out. Because they're green, just like the grass, but they're not the right type. They're not the right kind. They're not going to give us a good lawn. Right, Mikey? They're not going to give us anything at all, because guess what? It is out of alignment with the goals that I have in my life. And if they're out of alignment with the goals that you have in your life, they can become a distraction. So sometimes, not sometimes, men, there's a point in your life where women are a distraction. There's a point in your life when women are a distraction. They're a distraction because you have to be something that she can respect. Be something that she can feel comfortable being led by before you can present yourself. Now, when you present yourself and she still tries to violate or still tries to go in a different direction, then you then have the confidence to invite her to leave. And that's okay. This has been the Wrecking Trade. This has been a really interesting show. And I really enjoyed you being able to have this experience, because sometimes we miss out on this. We believe as men that, we have to go along to get along. We have to keep making things work. We have to just keep but that's not the job, Mikey. That's not the job. My job is not to make people around me feel comfortable. I was given bigger muscles. I was given strength. I was given all of these things to bring things in under control, to manage these things, not to get emotional, not to get triggered, but to manage the way around you so that we can move forward in a progressive direction. So I invite you to all get to that space where you do get there's a ton of content on the internet where you can see this happening in real time, and you got a chance to see it in real time today. So give me your thoughts, give me your feedback. I'd love to get your comments on some of the responses that we were getting tonight, some of the reactions that we were getting to the question, because at some point my brain felt like, what's going on here? This is an interesting turn of events. I mean, we're saying one thing, but then we're repeating it and saying it like you're not even agreeing with yourself. And I'm imagining you're sitting in your home and you're looking at this happening, all right? And this may be happening to you, between you and your partner, you and your spouse, and you're saying, am I crazy? And I'm sure that many men are asking themselves, am I crazy? I feel like this is gaslighting. and it can be gaslighting. It can be just, someone just trying to trigger you and put you in that space. But here's the thought, right? You have to be able to recognize it. You have to be able to recognize it, and that does not just come by waking up in the mornings. Let me tell you something before we go. I think we have a couple of minutes. So let me just give you this scenario. Once a woman goes through puberty, she gets breasts, she gets butt. Guess what happens? Men start being attracted to her. So every day, your girlfriend, your wife, your daughter, whoever she is getting approached by men from all over, from in different places. And guess what she learns? She learns a very valuable skill. She learns how to interact with the opposite gender. She learns how to navigate the male space to get her way. Now you're probably 25, you're 26, maybe you're even 19, just like her. And guess what? You've been shy. You probably talked to 2 girls in your whole life. That does not compare to her interacting with 10 guys on any given day. Right? And so as a man, you think you're having the same conversation. You think you're operating in the same way, but you're not. Men are operating at a disadvantage because you, my friend, do not understand how to have a conversation, how to interact with the opposite gender. And because you don't understand how she's moving, female nature, what is happening, you're often going to be making the wrong decision. And so we're invited to focus on ourselves, to focus on understanding what our purpose is. Interact with women, or have conversations with them, but don't be led by your penis. Don't be led by your need to get a girl in your life. Be led by finding your purpose. And once you find that purpose, friends, you will find fulfillment in yourself and under God. This has been The Wrecking Trade. I'm Robert Lynch. Join us next week when we have another awesome conversation with another interesting guest. Maybe they'll stick around, or maybe they won't get kicked off. Whatever the case is, we invite persons to recognize that this is my house. I welcome you to my house. Come have fun. Mikey, take it away.
At 10:30 a.m. Welcome to The Wrecking Trade. This and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. The radio show that provides a platform for a deeper understanding of issues affecting men in the Cayman Islands. Join us as we explore the low enrollment of men and boys in college classrooms, the absence of men in the church, and the absence of fathers in the home. Join the conversation as we help men find their place in the modern world. Through engaging interviews with experts and members of the community, we provide a clear picture of what healthy masculinity looks like as an example for boys and girls. Our mission is to provide a voice for men, to help them navigate the challenges that they face and provide hope for a brighter future. So tune in this and every Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. and join the conversation on The Wrecking Trade. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of men and boys in the Cayman Islands. Brought to you by Oscore Fitness, strong inside, powerful outside, and the Bellagio Salon and Spa.